Hello and welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Miles Davis, and my co-host Chris Branch. This is the daily 10-minute podcast where we take out all of the techie talk around generative AI and focus on what the everyday person, content creator, and marketer wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we can only focus on one particular subject. And today we're going to talk about an event that happened a few days ago, but happens every year. It's been happening for many, many, many years. And it is one of the main events in the music industry's calendar globally, and that is the Grammys. Now, we're going to talk about the Grammys, but really what we want to talk about is the topic that was on kind of everyone's lips this year, and that was generative AI and the impact it's going to have on the music industry. Now, we've spoke about generative AI and music on a number of occasions on this podcast. So again, a lot of what we was talking about in previous episodes, they were speaking about on the red carpet or in interviews, and it really is the impact that generative AI has. Now, Chris, again, you didn't see the Grammys. I didn't really see it. I just saw some of the highlights because I don't really watch those like the Grammys. It's not what it used to be. But I did find it very interesting what they were saying about Gen AI. So have a guess what they were kind of speaking about or what they were worried.
Yeah, I'm imagining that it's the elephant in the room right now to a lot of them, isn't it? Because we've seen the rapid rise of like photorealistic images, and now this year we've predicted it's going to be video, and of course it's coming for music and music videos and music art and all of these things. So it's a matter of when, not if, and essentially they're all like bracing for the when coming very,
Yeah,
very soon.
exactly. So one of the areas that they were really concerned about, obviously, when, and that is when it's not so much when is it going to happen because they know it's happening right now, but they was looking at like when is it going to impact them on a more of a mainstream area. Um, is it a case where you will have an award show and there'll be a category in itself about AI? Again, that's an interesting area of interesting topic of discussion, but I think where it becomes grey is that where's the line? Where's the
Exactly
line?
what I was about to say, yeah. Because if
Where's
you
the
just
line?
use AI for a tiny bit of the editing in your music video, does that mean you have to enter the AI category because you used
Yeah,
AI at all? Or, essentially, if you use Photoshop, that's got AI built into it. So did you use Photoshop? Is this what it's going to come down to? I think not. I think the lines are going to blur, and they're just not going to be accepting of those lines,
yeah, exactly. And I think they've got some tough decisions to make quite quickly.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
another another area is the recreation, which is obviously a big thing. Using it to generate covers of songs using voices of
Mm-hmm.
famous artists that is either with us or not with us. But
Right, yeah.
also the permission, who grants
Mm,
permission, who owns the rights to it.
mm,
Because I'm sure when pretty much 99% of all the contracts were signed, they didn't even think about AI. It was probably a very clever lawyers going through it saying, actually, when you stated this and that person
mm,
singing, it was the person. But if the person's voice was digitally kind of remastered in one of these
mhm,
AI platforms, and you know what lawyers like, they'll have to be a very precise way of saying this, then
mhm.
the contract is null and void and we can use it. But that was a big thing where it was kind of talking about the recreation of music
Well,
or,
that's
or
funny you
voice.
should say that because one of the biggest things that I saw as like a trend in the music industry was the use of autotune. This
Yeah.
essentially is the same thing, right? It's like you go into a recording booth and you might not hit your notes, but an AI can just slightly move it to an octave above to make it so that you hit that note. And that's always been the case. Lots of music is enhanced through compression and stuff, and that's all machine learning and AI. So again, when you talk about where the line is, I think music's been using some variants of AI for the last 15 plus years in most commercial studios for pop recording,
Yeah.
especially. But the fascinating thing about pop music is it's four chords, most of it.
Mhm.
It's very, very predictable and sort of like reproducible. if that makes sense. So I can imagine a lot of pop music just being generated pop. So a musician might write the lyrics on top, like a Justin Bieber, but then have the entire track underneath generated.
But that also could be a case where they could even use, obviously you can do it now, where you can use
Yeah,
these tools to write the lyrics.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the whole thing. Because
Could do
what was
everything.
actually, yeah, what was interesting was overall it was essentially talking about licensing agreements.
Right.
That was kind of the main area. But there
Mm-hmm.
was some people talking about the positives, talking about that the Beatles using John Lennon's voice, you
Yeah.
know, all of the positives that's coming out of it. But again, it all goes back to who owns the voice. How can you put together proper licensing agreement for AI generated works? Where does it sit?
Mm,
Because if you look at, let's say, if you look at these, a lot of the pop artists, that's via like all of
mm,
these like TV shows. What tends to happen is they win the show, but really what they're saying is we want to buy your celebrity. Everything
mm,
else we will do as the record label. We will get
mm,
someone to write the song for you. We will get someone to produce the song. Someone else will film the videos. We just need your face because everyone's bought
mm,
into you and your voice.
mm,
So because of that, and that's always been quite a complicated thing in music. So because of that's pretty much when you're working with labels. So because
mm,
of that, it's going to be interesting to see the next generation or the next step, the next evolution.
mm,
How will that work when it comes to AI generation? Because from what I was seeing yesterday at the Grammys, no one had a clue, including some of the CEOs of record labels, all the way down to some of the artists, even probably some of the interns and the runners. No one has
mm.
a clue really of what they can do, what it's going to become, which
I
is
agree.
obviously it's a guess
I
for
think,
pretty much any and everyone.
yeah, it's a
Yep.
guess even for us, right? And we talk about this every day. Like, it really is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
no one can really understand where this is going. One of the weird things, though, that I think is going to be crucial for us to think about is the definition of everything. What
yeah.
is creativity? What is music? Does it have to be made by a
Mm,
human? Can an AI do this? I think that the definition of a DJ, when I used to DJ like 20 years ago, was someone essentially that was like a playlist creator. And now it's like seen as an instrument, like it's seen as a full on musical instrument, and it's one of the most popular ones in the world because these
yeah.
DJ sets sell out much bigger venues than any other type of music. So then you're thinking it might start niche and subcategory and not even be defined as music, AI,
Mm.
DJing, sampling, auto tuning, all of the above, right? But then it's going to graduate and become more and more and more popular, and it become mainstream.
Yeah, I can see. I think it really goes down to what we said right at the beginning, and that is what is AI defined by? Because if you
Yeah.
do that from an actual song, the output, then yeah, I can see that. But if the AI just created the beat and
Mm,
then you had Drake rapping over it, or Kanye, he's somebody who, when it comes, love him or hate him, when it comes to innovation, he's very much on it. Will I am as well. He's another one, very much on
mm,
it. When they start using AI generated beats, if they're not using it already,
mhm,
it's a hot song. Do people care? I don't think they do. As long as they can dance, as long as it's a good song, you know. Are
mm,
we as fans of music gonna? Do we really care? But then again, the business of music, they will care, and I think like we've said in other episodes, it's going to be the publishers versus the tech companies.
mm.
That's going to play a big, big part moving forward.
I would love to find out, like, if we could time travel, it'd be a really fun episode. If we could go back to the like 90s when, or 80s when Kraftwerk, the German DJs, were like, if you fast forward 30 years into the future, if you went to someone at that gig and said, that most of the most popular music 30 years from now is going to be exactly like this, DJs sampling on a stage, because at that time they were pretty much the only ones doing it. And no
Yeah,
one saw this genre like bursting out to being the most popular type of music the world has ever seen, perhaps. Electronic music really is. Now,
yeah.
this is going to extend the episode a little bit, but really quickly, like in a nutshell, I'll round it all up. but the good side and the bad side are coming in tandem, right? Like you mentioned earlier, John Lennon and the Beatles. Now, many people's commented about this being a negative thing. You know, you shouldn't bring back people from the dead. It's not right. You know, the Beatles should have died, all of this stuff. On the other side of the coin, the way that they actually did that was they separated the piano from his vocals in order to be able to do it. And
Mm.
so imagine giving a creative the ability to use AI to separate out instruments. That's an entirely new creative avenue.
It's a new
People don't
skill.
see it from there's good and bad to all of this new stuff. That's the
Yeah,
nutshell, you know, like it really is good sides and bad sides and just use it responsively.
exactly. And it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen at the Grammys 2025 if
Oh
there is
yeah.
new categories included.
Yeah.